Hello and welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be taking a look at how to create the 3D solid model for the control bracket, which to me is the more complicated 3D part model on this sheet. Now, I know that when we did the die punch, we created a drawing file for that. We created the right angle brace in the last lesson, but I have not done a lesson on creating the drawing file for the right angle brace. But don't worry, I will be. I just don't want to look at drawing files again until I get the 3D solid model lesson done for this part today. So taking a look at this, it's a mixture of fractions and decimals, which is no big deal. That's not going to cause a problem for us using Inventor. But one or two things that students have difficulty with this part model creation is the radius of the front, because all it does is it points an arrow from the origin of this hole to the front arc, and it says R, and students become very thrown off by this. They say, I don't know what that radius is supposed to be. Well, the width of this is 2 inches. So if the width is 2 inches, then the radius here must be 1, because you can think of this like a 2-inch diameter circle right here, or cylinder, and then the radius is always half of a diameter, so that would be 1. And the thickness of that semi-cylinder extrusion at the front is 5/8, and there's also basically a step which runs below it, and the spacing or the height of that is 1/4 of an inch. So those are the two main things that students struggle with. But beyond that, it should be pretty straightforward, and we're going to dive a little deeper into Inventor today and talk about some things that I have not mentioned yet in the first two 3D model lessons, which I probably should have, but I'm saving it till now, which is fine. So Inventor is already running. We're going to get started. We're going to go to File. We're going to go to New. Making sure we're selecting English from Templates, and we're selecting Standard Inch.ipt because this is an imperial part creation. Wait for this to load up. I have a lot of applications running in the background right now, so the computer is being worked at this time. Alright, so we're going to get started, and we're going to start with a 2D sketch like we've learned before. We're going to select the XY plane to get started. And this is going to start out similar to how we drew the right angle brace, where we're going to draw the front view profile, or the profile that makes the most sense in terms of creating the least amount of work. So we're going to start with a line. Again, we're going to start at 0, 0, like I've shown you before. We're going to draw a line vertically, and we're sketching this profile. So it looks something like this. Make sure that's perpendicular, 90 degrees. Doesn't have to be perfect. It just, all the line work has to be straight. It has to be perfectly vertical, perfectly horizontal. So when you're done, right click, left click OK. So as we've learned before as a review, only this vertical line and this horizontal line are purple because they're connected to 0, 0, considered constrained from the get-go, while all these other lines that are green need to be constrained with our dimension tool. So we have to constrain the sketch or solve the sketch. But I like to use the word constrain. That's what Inventor uses. Other softwares may use solve, but we're going to use the correct Inventor lingo like you see right here. So to get started, we're going to start dimensioning this. So we're going to hit our general dimension tool, and the height. Now, when I run this dimension, the iPad image I'm using next to my monitor as a reference does not give me an overall height. It says 3/4 plus 1.75. Well, some people may freak out about that maybe not understand fractions so well, or mixing fractions and decimals. So all you have to do is type 3/4 for the fraction, and then the plus symbol, and type 1.75. And what that's going to do is Inventor is going to solve that for you. So once you've typed that in, hit check mark. Of course, the sketch is going to look worse for wear at first before it looks a whole lot better. But that's going to bring it to 2.5 inches high. The next dimension here will run. This one's simple, 3/4, 3/4. And this dimension from here to here is 5/8. The dimension from here to here is 1/4 inch, 1/4. And the overall length of this, now this is where students have trouble. So we're dimensioning from the back to the very front, and it doesn't give you an overall length, but we have to work with the numbers that we know. It gives us information. It tells us from the very, very back, to the first hole, the center of the first hole is listed as 1.750. And we know from the center of the first hole to the second hole is 1.5. So we can add these two numbers up. All we have left is the radius, which we've already discussed is 1. So that's going to be 1.750 plus 1.5 plus 1. Check mark. There's our length. We have one dimension left that's outstanding, that needs to be constrained. And that dimension is clearly given to us. From the back to here is 2.63. Check mark. All right, so our 2D sketch has been constrained. We're going to select the finished sketch, zoom out a bit, and we're going to hit the extrude feature. And the width of the extrusion is 2 inches. So we'll type 2 here, and we'll hit OK. And what we can do is, this is our view cube here. We can take a look at the front view, take a look at the right view, front and top, or we can hit the corner and we can get a look at some isometric views. Like this. Okay, that's how it looks on the image from the hub. Now, this is the project browser, and I haven't really discussed much about this yet. But all you see here is extrusion 1, and this is the first extrusion I created. Now, that sketch that I started with in 2D mode, it gets embedded into the extrusion. So if I click this arrow next to extrusion 1, sketch 1, if I flash my cursor over it, you can kind of see it there, and it's there embedded in extrusion 1. Now let's say I made a mistake in my modeling. Some students, a lot of them would just close this off and start again. But the beauty of Inventor is that you can easily edit things, change things, fix mistakes, that kind of thing. So if I go to sketch 1, which is embedded in extrusion 1, and I right click, I can say left click edit sketch, and it's going to bring me back into my sketch mode. Now I already solved this, or I should say constrained it. Let's say I wanted to make a change. I wanted to make this 1 1/4 inches. So if I went 1 space 1/4, and then I went to the check mark to finish the sketch, it would update the extrusion 1 for me, right? Because these two things are connected. If I wanted to delete extrusion 1, it'll ask me, do you want to just delete the extrusion or do you want to delete the consumed sketches and features, right? So I might want to save my sketch but delete my extrusion. So this is something I want you to take special care in paying attention to in this lesson and moving forward, because every time I continue to build a part, and you do as well, this keeps a record of all the things you're doing in Inventor, all the extrusions, all the features, everything you're working on. So if you're making a mistake, this is how you edit it. So I'm going to change that back because that's incorrect. So I'm going to go to extrusion 1. I'm going to left click, edit sketch, bring me back into 2D sketch mode. I'm going to update this dimension back to 3/4, the way it's supposed to be. Hit check mark, select finish sketch, and it updates it for me. Okay, so we're going to continue on and keep modeling this control bracket. So the next thing we can look at, we know how to do holes. We learned that in the right angle brace, so I'm gonna start with that again. That'll be like a review. But I'm gonna show you holes in a different way. Instead of using a sketch and circle to extrude it, I'm gonna show you how to use the hole feature on Inventor right here. So how this works is, we can start a 2D sketch on this surface, and I can use a point. So I'm going to select point, and I'm going to drop a point anywhere on XY here, right? I'm just going to drop it right there. It looks green because it's not constrained. So if I select dimension, I want this to be in the middle. I know this is 2 inches wide, so if I select either side and go here to the point, I can edit this dimension to be 1. Check mark. So now it's centered on Z, and I need to fix it on Y. So I need to go back to my iPad image here, and it shows that from the top to the center of the point should be 3/4. So we'll run another dimension, edit this to be 3/4, check mark, and then that's going to turn that point purple because it's been constrained. At this point, I can hit finish sketch, and I can select the hole feature. All right, so I just want a simple hole. So there's a lot to look at here. There's a lot of different things you can do with this, which we're not going to learn right now, but I want a simple hole. So I'm going to select hole here. And I can change my diameter of the hole so that it says that there's 3 holes that are 5/8. So this is where you change your diameter. So I'm going to change this to be 5/8. So it knows the diameter, and I'm going to want this to go all the way through, right? So I don't want a termination. I don't want it to stop somewhere. I can hit the through all, and that's going to tell it to cut all the way through to the back. Once I've done that, I can hit OK, and it creates that hole feature for me. Same way we did it yesterday with the right angle brace, but again, I want to introduce optional ways of doing things, right? And you can't always get away with a simple circle extrusion to cut. You need to use a hole feature, not necessarily this time, but in future drawings you'll be forced to for certain reasons that you will get to know later. So let's repeat that again on this surface. So we're going to go 2D sketch again. Select this face. Let's grab the point. Drop 2 points. Right click, left click, OK. Grab our general dimension. According to my iPad screen next to me. The first hole is 1.75 from the very back. So let's type that in, edit that point, change its position. And then from this one to the second one, it's a relative dimension. It's 1.5. If it was dimension from back here to here, it would be absolute, all coming from an origin of some kind, but this one is dimension from here. So it must not be that critical of a hole to be dimensioned that way. But we'll talk about something like that more in the future. All right, we have to solve and constrain this way on Z. So this has to be 1 inch. There. Okay, so they're constrained. Hit finish sketch. We're going to use the hole feature again. It picks both points up. And it's the same thing again. 5/8 diameter. And we want this to be a through all. We're going to hit OK. And it will cut them. Just like that. Let's go back into an isometric view. Let's go to front and then hit the corner. All right, so we're getting there. This is something new. We're going to learn a new feature today called fillet, which is next to hole. So this is a feature that's going to create those radiuses in these corners here. So we'll start with the two at the very back. We're going to hit fillet. The fillets here and here are listed as 1/2 inch. So we're going to edit radius to say 1/2. And then we're going to select this edge and this one. And it previews it for us. This is what it's going to look like. It looks correct. We'll hit OK. And it creates those radiuses for us. Notice as I continue to build this part, the browser here is filling up, right? Everything I'm doing in Inventor there's a record of it happening, and I can of course edit all this if I want, and I may do another example of that later. There's a fillet here and here. We've already talked about what that is. It's 1 inch, so we're going to hit fillet again. This time change it to 1. We're going to select this edge and this edge, and that's going to curve it around for us. Hit OK. And we have one left right here. This is listed as a fillet of 5/16 radius. So we're going to hit fillet again. 5/16. Select that edge. It'll preview a nice arc and hit OK. And that is it. So that is how you model the control bracket. Let's go into free orbit here. Let's take a look at it. We can spin it around and look at it from all possible perspectives, as if you were holding it in your hand and twirling it around and taking a look at it. Plus, we can also take a look at our 2D perspective views. This is a two-dimensional view from the front, from the top, and from the right side. Again, if I wanted to change something here, let's say I wanted to update one of my fillets, I could go to fillet number 1, right click, left click, edit feature, and I could change this to be, let's say, 1/4 inch. Hit OK, and it updates it for me, right? Of course, I don't want to leave it like that. I want to go back in, right click, fillet 2, left click, edit feature, change it back to 1/2 inch. Actually, I hit the wrong one. It was fillet 1 I adjusted. So I was changing. I didn't want to. So let's go back into here, left click, change this to 1/2, hit OK, and there we have it. So we have one last step, which is to save it. So we're going to File, we're going to Save As, and I'm keeping this in another folder. I'm keeping this in TDJ3M with the other two models I created already. Caps on. We're going to call this Control Bracket. Save. Okay, so this is the last model on that sheet. We're going to be looking at some more drawing file creations like we did with the die punch in the very first drawing lesson. We're going to create drawing files for these two parts as well and add some dimensions next time. So until then, try this out. Good luck. Make sure if you're making mistakes as you go, don't delete and start over, but get into the habit of editing these things. Right? Features don't have embedded sketches. Only things like extrusions do. So something to note and to remember. Until next time, take care and have a great day.